Have you ever used an AI like ChatGPT and just wondered, how does this whole thing actually work? Well, behind the scenes, there's this hidden economy running on a digital currency that powers the entire system. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that currency, AI tokens. Let's dive in.
When you're using traditional cloud services, the bill is pretty easy to understand, right? You're paying for things you can almost picture: processor time, memory, hard drive space. But with AI, the game is totally different. You're not really paying for the hardware. You're paying for tokens.
So that's the big question, isn't it? This is the fundamental unit of this entire new world. So what on earth is a token?
Okay, so here's the deal. A token is the smallest piece of text an AI can actually understand. The best way to think about it is like a Lego brick, but for language. AI models don't read word by word or letter by letter like we do. They read token by token. And a token can be a whole word, like cat, or just a part of a word, like ing in running, or even just a single exclamation point. Now, if you need a quick and dirty rule for English, here it is. One token is roughly 3/4 of a word. So if you have 100 words of text, you can bet it's going to be somewhere around 130, maybe 140 tokens. It's just a handy little shortcut to estimate things. Let's break down a real example to see how this works. The sentence, ChatGPT is amazing, looks simple enough to us. But for an AI, it gets chopped up into 6 separate tokens. And look how weird it is. You've got chat, then G, then PT, all as their own pieces. Is gets a token, amazing gets a token, and yep, even the exclamation point is its own little Lego brick. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. You might think, okay, the word red is always the same token no matter what. But nope, that's not how it works. The AI is incredibly sensitive to context, things like capitalization, or even just the space before a word. Check this out. This is where you see the crazy precision of these models. Take the word red. When it's lowercase with a space in front of it, it gets 1 token ID. But capitalize it, like red, and boom, it's a completely different token. Now put that capitalized red at the very beginning of a sentence with no space before it, and you get a third, totally unique token ID. This is why tiny little changes in your prompt can sometimes lead to different results and costs. All right, so now that we know what these things are, let's get to the part everybody really cares about, the money. How do these little chunks of text actually add up and hit your wallets? So your bill is basically split into 2 parts. First, you've got input tokens. This is everything you send to the model, your prompt, any instructions, and this is a big one, the entire conversation history. Then you have output tokens, and that's pretty simple. It's everything the model writes back to you, the answer. And yep, you guessed it, you pay for both. Every token that goes in and every token that comes out goes on the tab. But, and this is important, output tokens are almost always more expensive. Why? Well, you can think of it like this. It's more work for the AI to create brand new, coherent text than it is for it to just read what you sent it. Let's run the numbers on a real-world scenario. Say you've got a 1,000-word article you want summarized. You send that to the AI, that's about 1,500 input tokens. The AI does its thing and gives you back a nice, tight 300-word summary. That's about 400 output tokens. You add them together, and your total for this job is 1,900 tokens. And at a pretty standard rate, that whole operation costs you less than half a penny. It's ridiculously cheap for a single task like that. But you can see how if you're doing this millions of times a day, those tiny fractions of a cent start to add up really, really fast. But tokens aren't just about money. They also define the absolute limits of what the AI can do, what you could call its memory. And that limit is called the context window. The best way to think of it is like the AI's short-term memory, or maybe a whiteboard. It's the total number of tokens, your input, and the AI's output all combined that it can keep in its head at one time. If your conversation gets too long and goes over that limit, the AI starts to forget the beginning of the chat, just like you'd run out of space on the whiteboard and have to start erasing things. And this chart just shows how far we've come. An older model like GPT 3.5 had a context window of about 4,000 tokens. That's enough for a few pages of a document. GPT-4 doubled that, which was a huge deal. But then you look at something like GPT-4 Turbo. It has a massive 128,000 token window. That's big enough to feed it an entire book and have a conversation about it. It completely changes what's possible. Okay, so we know tokens are about cost, and we know they're about capability. So how do we take all this knowledge and actually work smarter with these amazing tools?
The big shift is to start thinking in tokens. You've got to treat them just like a currency. They are your budget. Every single token you send and receive is an expense, and you have a hard cap on how many you can use at once. Getting that mindset is absolutely key to using AI well.
So, here are 3 super easy ways to get better at this. First, keep your prompts tight. Cut out the fluff. Every extra word costs you tokens. Second, manage the conversation history. You don't need the AI to reread your entire chat history for every single question. And third, tell the AI how long you want its answer to be. If you only need a sentence, ask for a sentence. Don't let it write a novel and charge you for it.
At the end of the day, understanding tokens is like learning the basic laws of physics for this new AI universe. It's the one thing that governs everything else. So the real question is, now that you can measure the cost and the power of AI in this new currency, what are you going to build?